80s horror films. We know them and we love them. And only in the 80s could a jacked up dude, all greased up, playing the saxophone look normal and cool. Let's get into the film right now. Hey, welcome back to my channel. And if you didn't know already from my intro, the movie I am referring to is The Lost Boys. This movie came out July 31st of 1987. Had a budget of $8.5 million and upon release made $32.3. It was a hit that summer. It's rated R and it's an hour and 37 minutes long. And this movie was directed by Joel Schumacher. Now, I know everybody likes to hate on Joel Schumacher, myself included, because of the Batman movies, which were terrible. Both of them. I hate Batman Forever and I hate Batman and Robin. They're just terrible films. But Joel Schumacher has apologized for them. And he has made some really good films over the years. This is one of them. He also made A Time to Kill. He made 8mm, which is a pretty cool film with Nicolas Cage. Falling Down, which is a pretty good film. I mean, the man is a decent director by far. He's not an awful director. He just made some awful decisions with the Batman franchise, which was also not only him. We have to blame Warner Brothers for that because they're the cause of some of that shittiness in those films. But anyway, Richard Donner was actually originally going to direct this film. This was set up as a Richard Donner production. He was going to direct it. It was a film he wanted to make, although it would have been a very different film if Richard Donner would have directed it compared to what the original script was. Richard Donner, it was taking so long to get this started that Richard Donner moved on to Lethal Weapon, but he stayed on as producer. They brought in Joel Schumacher to direct this film. Now, when they brought Joel Schumacher in, he didn't want to do the script they had. The script they had was more like a Goonies-style movie where the kids were that age fighting vampires. So it was a much more kid-friendly film. It wasn't going to be rated R. I don't believe, anyway, from what I read, it wasn't going to be. Joel Schumacher was the one that came in and said, let's make it rated R. Let's cast teenagers, or let's make them teenagers, high school kids, and get rid of the younger kid element. Although Corey Haim and Corey Feldman are still a little older than the Goonies age, but they were in that ballpark. And in this film, as we all know, we have the Coreys. We have Corey Haim playing Sam, the brother of Jason Patric's character, Michael. And Corey Feldman plays Edgar Frog, one of the Frog brothers. And the other Frog brother was played by Jameson Newlander, which was his first film at the time. It was also the Coreys' first film that they were ever in together. And then they went on to be in several films after this together. And we had Diana West in here as Lucy, the mother of Michael and Sam. Kiefer Sutherland as David, the lead vampire, although so we believe, of this pack of vampires. Alex Winter's in this film, and we all know him from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. And Edward Herrmann plays Max. And we know things about him later on in the film, if you've ever seen it. This was a staple of my childhood. I remember this movie being played on HBO all the time. And I also remember renting this film all the time. I've always liked this film. But other than that, let's get into it a little bit. As we know, in the beginning of the film, Sam, Michael, and their mother are moving to Santa Clara to live with their grandfather. And when they get there, on the back of the billboard, it says Murder Capital of the World, which is funny because this film was filmed in Santa Cruz, California. And in the 70s, Santa Cruz was known as the Murder Capital of the World because of three mass murder. Well, one mass murder and two serial killers were stalking the Santa Cruz area in the early 70s. So when they filmed this in Santa Cruz, the Chamber of Commerce wasn't thrilled with that being put back on a billboard, but they let them do it for the film. And so it has a little bit of a double meaning there because Santa Cruz was known as the Murder Capital World, and it's in this film as well. And when they get there, they're exploring. It has a boardwalk. It's a beach town, and there's all these different shops. If you've ever been to a boardwalk beach town, it's Ocean City, Maryland's one, Wildwood, New Jersey's one, and I know there's some in California. Obviously, this one in California. And Sam happens upon this comic book store where he's introduced to the Frog Brothers, and they come off as a little in your face a little bit. And his brother, Michael, sees this girl. They're actually seeing this concert in the intro about this jacked up, greased up dude playing the saxophone while they're playing music on the beach. And only in the 80s could you get away with that, folks, and make it look normal and still cool. And he sees this girl played by Jamie Gertz. Sorry, can't talk. Hopped up on caffeine. And he becomes enamored with her. And we see Kiefer Sutherland's character and these other kids, like late teenage kids, hanging together. And right away we know they're troublemakers. And we see this security guard who had kicked them out. He's leaving to go home for the night. And we just see the aerial view coming in on him. And he sees something. And he tries to get to his car. And his car door rips off and he's taken away. And he's screaming. And that's the beginning of the film. Now, once they get settled with their grandfather, their mother, Lucy, tries to find a job, and she gets a job at this video store in the Boardwalk, which Max owns, Edward Herrmann's character. And Michael ends up going to hang out with Keith Sutherland's David's character and these other guys, and they take him back to their lair, which was this hotel that sank into the ground during an earthquake, but it's still usable. Like, there's caves that go down into it, and that's where they hang out. And they talk him into drinking this wine, and he thinks it's wine. It's like in this wine bottle. Well, it's not wine. And David soon finds out that he's turning into a vampire. And Sam is freaked out by this, and he calls the Frog Brothers for help, and they give him some advice, and they're trying to figure it out. And as the movie goes along, fast forwards through some stuff, we find out that, yes, Michael and these other guys are vampires. We see them slaughtering this party. One night, Michael witnesses them slaughtering this party. They're trying to prove what they are, and that he has to feed. And as we know, we have our final confrontation at their grandfather's house. Their grandfather's gone for the night. Their mom's gone for the night. And they kill all the vampires, but Michael doesn't turn back to normal, and neither does Star and this little boy who turned into a vampire. And this is when we get to the twist. I'm spoiling this. This movie's been out since '87, where Max was actually the head vampire. And as soon as he set his sights on their mother, he wanted her to become a vampire and be the mother to his boys, which was David and the rest of the guys, and bring her sons into the clan as well. And Grandpa shows up to save the day because he bursts through in his Jeep, and this one of these posts that he's using for his fence go through Max. He goes in the fireplace and explodes in a ball of flames, and we have a happy ending. Michael turns back to normal, so does Star, and so does the little boy. And that is Lost Boys. This movie was always a fun vampire movie. This is not my favorite vampire movie, but it's one of the ones I rewatched the most, and it is a pretty damn good film. Joel Schumacher keeps the pace moving. Yes, there's a lot of flash. It's definitely a product of its time, no doubt, with the music, the clothing. God, the clothing that Corey Haim wears is terrible. But that was the 80s, folks. It was absolutely the 80s. All the cast is fine. They do really well here. Jason Patric's great. Keith Sutherland's great. All the actors do really good work here. I can't complain. The Coreys were always fun to see on screen together. They were always good together. And I just like this film. It's a fun time. You can sit down and watch this and just have a good time. And I remember fondly rewatching this over and over and over again in the late 80s, early 90s. It definitely was a product of my childhood. I watched this film a lot. A lot of guys my age, a lot of kids my age, or people my age, probably have fond memories of watching this film for sure. But I would give The Lost Boys an 8.5 out of 10. I think it's a really well done film. It's not, I wouldn't say it's scary. There are some creepy scenes, but it's not scary. The makeup effects come off really good. They're well done. There's not a ton of gore, but there is definitely some, and some really cool gore moments. It's not a bloodbath like Friday the 13th Part 4 or anything. But yeah, 8.5 out of 10 for me for The Lost Boys. Have you ever seen The Lost Boys? If you have, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think of this film. Hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, all those great things. Share this video. I'd also appreciate that. You all take care of each other. Have a great weekend, and I'll be back soon. Thanks. Bye.